Hey everybody, Jam Creates here. Uh, Filming another video. I know it's been a few days, had some stuff going on, so I want to get back to it. So here we go. Some new reviews for you guys coming. Some other stuff coming your way this week. So anyway, this is Tinseltown issue 1 from Alterna Comics. This is number 1 in a 5-issue limited series. You may notice the silver Alterna logo up in the corner there. That means this is a reprint. And forgive me, I didn't look it up before I just started to record this. Again, the level of research that you come to expect from my channel. The different colors mean second printing, third printing, and I forget which is which now. So anyway, obviously it was popular enough to get reprinted. This is by David Lucarelli and Henry Ponciano. This is a story that takes place in old Hollywood. That's why you see like the film, the movie camera behind her. She's a police officer. She was a cop in the early days of Hollywood in a town where nothing was as it seemed. Again, like all Alterna books, $1.50. Now, just before I even get into it, I wanted to mention this is obviously this series is completed. It is a 5-issue limited series, so if you want, you can actually go out and get all 5 issues, read the entire series. That's what I did. I haven't finished reading it all yet, so, I'm going to give you my impressions as I go, but I did order the entire series, so I plan on reviewing the entire thing for you guys. Again, I don't like to do too many spoilers or anything like that, but so let's jump into it here. Again, in case you don't know, newsprint, Alterna Comics publishes all their stuff on newsprint, and that's why they're able to charge $1.50 for a comic book, which is something I really wish the rest of the industry would grab a hold of and run with, because I just feel like it would be, I don't know if it would be the panacea to save everything, but it would certainly not hurt if comics were not so freaking expensive, especially when it comes to getting kids involved. So what we have here, now normally I am not a fan of starting your book off with a giant wall of text. However, or to quote Stephen A. Smith, however, this is actually very interesting to me, and it's a nice little touch. I feel like this is excusable, okay? This is an exception because David Lucarelli, who is the author, is talking about the character being a police officer, but he also talks about his mother was a police officer, and he gives you some background into how in 1915 Universal Studios was basically almost like its own little city within Hollywood. They had their own mayor, they had their own police chief and police officers and all that kind of stuff. It did, however, have a female mayor, a female police chief, and female police officers, and it was kind of like they had them, but at the same time, they were also eye candy for everyone. It's like kind of an interesting situation, and it's like one of those weird little nuggets of history that you probably would never even know or think is real, but it is. And so he dedicates it to his mother, who was a Pittsburgh police officer for a number of years, so for over 20 years. So this is actually interesting because it ties into two things. It gives you a little insight into the author, but it also gives you an insight into the history that we're going into. So anyway, we jump into the story here, and I always like to do this. The credits are very... I like this little framing device he's got here, with the clapper and the camera, and then the police badge and the stars and the film behind. That's a cool little thing he's got going there. I like that. So anyway, we have the story by David Lucarelli, art by Henry Ponciano, and lettering by HDE. So, I always like to give out the credits. If you follow my channel, that is, you know that. If not, now you do. Now you know. And knowing is half the battle. So anyway, we get a little background on the character. They talk about how she was born in 1894. Again, this is a historical piece. Her father was a police officer. He was actually one of 2 police officers hired to work in the city of Hollywood. Which is, you think about it, back in that time, they probably didn't have a big police force because it wasn't a really bustling city back then. Not the way it is now. If you've ever been to LA or to Hollywood, like, like, it's just like, there's lots and lots of people. It's not like Manhattan. It's very different. When I went there, I was really like kind of surprised. Like, I'm so used to, when you talk about city, Manhattan, because I'm in Manhattan all the time, so I'm used to that. And it was interesting to me to be in a big city like Los Angeles and be able to see for miles. Like, it was really weird not having your view blocked by buildings. Like, you can only see like a couple of blocks down, and then your view is blocked. Anyway, that has nothing to do with this comic book. Anyway, so we jump in. So we get her whole background. Her father was a police officer. Her father was unfortunately killed in the line of duty. This I don't consider spoilers. It's literally on the second page. Her mother has some issues. And then we jump ahead. She was, whatever. So we jump ahead, and apparently she tried to get a job as a normal police officer and could not get one. She wasn't hired. Again, let's be honest, women were probably not hired to be police officers too much back then. There's, I'm sure, lots and lots of sexism going on back in those days. And that's not anything. I'm not trying to push an agenda, and they're not trying to push an agenda. That's just historical fact. So anyway, she sees this ad. To staff, Utopia City Studios is hiring cast and crew to staff the city of the future. And they even called it an audition. It's very interesting the way they go about it. So she goes in for her audition. She makes a friend online while she's waiting online, which I thought was very relatable, because anytime I'm standing on a long line, I wind up making friends with the people around me, just because, like, you get bored. You're sitting around, you're chit-chatting, and eventually you're just like, you start sharing life stories with people around you, because when you're stuck in one place for a really long time with nowhere to go, what else are you going to do? And they don't have phones back then. It's not like they can just pull out their phones and be like, oh, I'm just going to play Candy Crush for a while. Which, by the way, don't play Candy Crush. Anyway, if you really want, like, fun app suggestions, I guess I could give those, but whatever. That's neither here nor there. So I want to jump into, something I always get into, of course, is the artwork. The artwork on this book is so clean. It's really a really nice marriage of super clean lines on the characters and not overdoing it. And part of that is, you're drawing a lot of females. So, for instance, let's just look like we can get two panels in one here. When you look at these faces, you look at Abigail's face, and then you look at, what's her name? Miss Redwood. When you look at their faces, there's very few lines. It's just the lines that are necessary to get the details across, because the more lines you add to a face, the older you make them look. Now, Abigail is supposed to be young. She's supposed to be in her 20s. I'm not sure how old this one is supposed to be. I think she's a little bit older, but again, not old by any stretch of the imagination. So again, very few lines. You don't want to do a ton of lines on someone who's young, because every line adds age. So that's just a little tip, but you see how clean it is. And then the colorist does a wonderful job of adding the shading to give you the lighting effects and all that. And I also want to point out to all the naysayers out there, again, that this is all on newsprint. This is on newsprint, and look how beautifully clean and just really nice the shading, the coloring, all of it comes out. It's not relied upon the ink to do a lot of the shading. It's relied on the colorist to get a lot of that lighting effects across, and they do a wonderful job of it. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out. I think colorists sometimes don't get enough credit. When I try to color my own stuff, every time I'm doing it, I'm like, oh my God, I know nothing. I just always feel like I know nothing about coloring. And I do it, and sometimes I can do a pretty decent job, but I always feel like overwhelmed. For some reason when I'm trying to color stuff. A real good colorist is hard to find, and also can really add or take away a lot from a book. So anyway, back to the story. It's not hard to find. Ninja's not just of the body, but of the mind. Okay, that was a little TURTLE power right there. I couldn't help it. So anyway, we follow. She gets hired. It's funny because the woman doesn't believe her that she's actually there to be a police officer. She thinks she's an aspiring actress who's just trying to get in there so she can eventually get discovered and be a star, which I'm sure a lot of those people were. So Abigail is frustrated, but she still doesn't lose her calm. She makes her point across, and she's given a chance, and then she goes in and she interviews, and basically is given the job. And it's funny. The next day she shows up Monday morning to work. I don't know if it was the next day, but Monday morning she shows up to work, and they give her costume, and she's like, "Don't you mean uniform?" She's like, "It's the same thing." Uh, they give her a gun with blanks in it, and basically tell her, "If you see any real problems, just come get me. I'm not gonna, your job is to help lost children get reunited with their parents, bring lost items to the lost and found, and walk around and look good. Hike up your skirt a little bit, make people feel good, flirt with the guys, and move on." And that's essentially what she's told. Now, at the end of the issue, I don't want to spoil it. You know how I feel about spoilers. At the end of the issue, a situation comes up. There's a little situation. And when that situation comes up, somebody basically looks at her and is like, "Well, do something, lady. You're a cop, aren't you?" So, and that's where we're left off. So, we're about to see Abigail jump into her first real police situation. When the story ends at the end of the issue. So anyway, again, I don't want to give away too much. I'm only at the staples right here because I don't want to, I don't want to spoil a lot. But again, I just really like the art, and it's so clean. It's got this neat, clean style to it, and the period is definitely a cool, an interesting period for it to be taking place in. Her buddy that she met online actually got a job as an ice cream man. And it's just interesting. It's really cool. He asks her out. It's cool. They're human. They're very human characters, and I like that. Obviously some of the taunting and things that she gets are a little bit over the top, but, you kind of have to make your point. It is comic books. You have a limited amount of time and space to make your point, so you got to kind of get in and get out and do it. So anyway, it's a solid start for sure. It's a definite solid start to the series. I would definitely, I definitely want to read more. I want to see what happens more. It's a very different type of comic than what I normally enjoy reading. I usually like science fiction, fantasy, horror, superheroes, action, adventure, that kind of stuff. And I know there's going to be more to it as we go, just from seeing the covers and all that, so I'm definitely interested to see where this goes. It's a nice setup issue of setting a time and a place and the characters and all that. And that's essential, and I feel that's probably one of the reasons why this is a 5-issue series, is because they wanted to take their time to really give you true characterizations of the people involved. So anyway, I definitely would recommend this book. I enjoy the art. The art's really clean and nice. It's an interesting style. I'm having a hard time putting my finger on what I would call it. So if you can help me out in the comments, that would be wonderful. You can just, down there, you could just type, "Hey, Jam, you're an idiot. That's obviously influenced by blah, 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 blah." But anyway, I really like the art. The coloring is fantastic. The, even for the flashback, they do a great job of, it seems like the obvious thing. You go sepia for a flashback, but it works. It makes sense. It's something your brain instantly understands, and a smart colorist will do that. So anyway, good writing so far. It does look like a lot of words on this page, but it's really not overkill at all. This particular page that I stopped on just looks like a lot. But then when you get going, it's absolutely just normal. So anyway, I would definitely want to recommend this to you guys. If you like it, let me know. Tell me in the comments. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. If you're already subscribed, you are awesome. And just know that deep in your heart that you are awesome for subscribing to my channel. And if you're not subscribed, you could be awesome. Just click the subscribe button. It's that easy. There's one simple trick to being awesome. Awesome people hate me for sharing this secret with you. Just subscribe, like, all that good stuff. Hit the bell for notifications so you don't miss anything. Hit me up on Twitter. I'm at jam_creates. I'm on Instagram at jam_creates. I'm on Facebook. It's just Jam Creates. So anyway, just hit me up on any of those spaces. Talk to me. Give me comments. I love reading comments. And I'll talk to you guys soon. All right? Peace out.